I never thought I'd be the guy posting something like this, but here I am. My name's Dan, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for about 8 years now. We got married pretty young, and for the most part, I thought we had a good thing going. We had our fights, sure, mostly about money or her attitude, but I always figured we'd work through it. She's the kind of woman who can be bitchy, really sharp-tongued, and she's got this way of dismissing my feelings that used to bug me but I let slide because I loved her. I thought I knew her, or at least knew what she was capable of. Lately, though, things started feeling different. It's subtle at first. She'd come home late from her therapy sessions, and she'd be tired but oddly defensive if I asked about them. I knew she'd been seeing a counselor. She's always been into self-improvement, or at least she says she is. Tell me she's working on herself, trying to be better. Thing is, her sessions started stretching out longer than they should have, which was odd. She'd leave the house at 9 a.m. and come back around 4 p.m. claiming it was her therapy. I didn't think much of it at first, just assumed maybe she was taking extra classes or something. But then I started noticing little things. Her phone kept lighting up with texts and calls from some unknown number, and she'd dismiss them quickly or change the subject if I asked. Her attitude towards me got colder, more dismissive. She'd snap at me over the smallest thing, and she'd always make a point to remind me she deserved her own space. That's when I started feeling uneasy. Women change their behavior when they're hiding something, and Lisa was definitely hiding something. I just didn't know what. One night, I decided to do a little digging. I've never been the snooping type, but something about her secretive behavior was bothering me more than usual. I borrowed her phone when she was in the shower. I know, big mistake, but I felt like I had to know. I didn't find anything incriminating at first, just a bunch of messages from her sister and her friends. But then I noticed her calendar app had a bunch of entries labeled therapy. But with strange times, sometimes 2 hours longer than usual, sometimes even overlapping with her supposed therapy sessions. I figured maybe she was seeing multiple therapists, or maybe she was just lying about the duration. Then one day, I got curious about her therapy office. I looked it up online and found out it was actually in the same building where she'd been telling me she was going for her sessions. I decided to check out the building after work, just to see what was going on. I know, probably reckless, but I couldn't help myself. I parked across the street and watched for a while. The moment I saw her enter the building, I thought maybe it was just her therapist's office. But then I saw her meet someone, a man, and they went into the elevator together. It was quick, but I recognized him from her social media. His name's Greg, a guy she met in her yoga class. They seemed close, laughing, touching on the arm. The elevator ride looked way more intimate than a therapy session. That's when my stomach dropped. My wife was cheating on me right in front of my eyes. I watched as they got off on the same floor and disappeared down a corridor. I couldn't believe it. All the signs were there and I'd ignored them. I felt a mix of rage, betrayal, and heartbreak. I had to know more, but I also knew I couldn't just confront her blindly. I had to have evidence, real proof, not just my suspicions. That's when I started planning what I'd do next. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying what I saw over and over. Lisa sneaking into that building, meeting Greg, the way they looked so comfortable with each other. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. It wasn't just some fling or a random affair. It was something secret, something meant to stay hidden. I kept wondering how long this had been going on, how many times she'd gone to see him behind my back while telling me she was working on herself. The next day, I felt numb but also furious. I knew I had to get more proof before I did anything. I remembered that building had security cameras, and I decided I'd review the footage myself. I called the building management and asked if I could get access to the security recordings for that specific day. At first, they hesitated, asking who I was, what I needed it for. I told them I was a concerned husband, which was technically true. After a long back and forth, they finally agreed to give me access, but only if I came in person. I went after work that afternoon. Sitting there, watching those videos was like watching my worst nightmare unfold in real time. There was Lisa, clearly trying to hide her face, walking into the building, disappearing down the hallways with Greg. The footage showed her going into a conference room, not just once but multiple times over the span of weeks. sometimes for hours. Her hair was different, her makeup was different, and her body language was completely changed. She was more confident, leading him into private corners, away from the public eye. It was explicit enough to confirm she was having sex with him during those sessions. Seeing her like that, so brazen, so careless about what I'd think, I felt like I was going to throw up. My hands trembled as I watched her laugh. With him, touch him. It wasn't just innocent therapy, she was fucking him, and she knew I'd find out. I knew then I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I left the building that day with my head spinning. I didn't tell anyone yet, just needed to process what I'd seen. My mind went into overdrive. How could she do this? How long had she been lying? It wasn't just the betrayal of the sex, it was the betrayal of trust, of the vows we made, of all those years I thought we had. I was furious, but deep down I was also broken. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, was cheating on me with someone I once considered a friend. That night I sat in the dark in our living room, staring at the ceiling. I kept asking myself, what am I supposed to do now? Do I confront her? Do I pack my things? Do I just cut her out and walk away? I was drowning in a mix of anger, sadness, and confusion. She'd always been bitchy and sharp-tongued, but this was a new level of betrayal I never saw coming. I told myself I would confront her soon, but I didn't know how. I didn't even know what to say. All I knew was I couldn't keep pretending I didn't see what I saw. And then, just as I thought I'd never get a break from this nightmare, I got a text from her. It was typical Lisa, bitchy, dismissive, and full of lies. She said she was working late, that she'd been at her therapy session, and that I shouldn't jump to conclusions. She blamed the stress, the therapy, the misunderstandings. Yeah, right. She wanted to keep lying because that's what she's good at. But I wasn't about to fall for that anymore. Not after what I saw. Not after realizing I'd been played all along. The next few days were a blur. I kept going over everything in my head. How she lied about her therapy, how she was sneaking around, how she thought she could get away with it. Every time she texted me, I'd want to scream or cry or both. I'd ask myself why I didn't see this coming sooner. How could I have been so blind? I had always known she was difficult. Always throwing tantrums, always bitching about everything. But I never thought she'd cheat on me, especially not with someone like Greg. I decided I needed a plan. I couldn't just confront her without concrete proof. I needed her to admit it or at least slip up again. I also knew I'd have to be careful not to let her spin her usual lies. My mind raced with options. Should I follow her again? Should I try to get more footage? Or maybe I should just call her out directly and see what she says. But I knew her well enough. She's a master at lying her way out of anything, especially when she's cornered. Whatever I did, I had to be strategic. So I started gathering everything I had. The security footage, the texts I'd secretly taken screenshots of, even some of the bank statements where I saw payments going to a private therapist's office, the same one she'd claimed she wasn't visiting anymore. It all pointed to the same thing. She was hiding the affair, and she was doing a damn good job of it. I felt a surge of anger every time I looked at her. Social media, where she'd post pictures of us together acting like everything was perfect. It was like she thought she could fool everyone, including me. One night I finally decided to confront her head-on. I told her I knew about everything, the affair, the lying, the sneaking around. She looked stunned at first, then annoyed. She rolled her eyes and tried to dismiss it all, brushing it off like I was overreacting. "You're crazy, Dan. You're just jealous or paranoid. I'm doing this for myself, for therapy. Greg's just a friend, a mentor." She kept lying, trying to convince me that I was imagining things, that I was insecure, but I wasn't buying it. I watched her face as I laid out all the evidence, the footage, the texts, the payments. Her bitchy attitude turned into pure defensiveness, and her eyes flashed with anger. "You're ruining everything because you're insecure," she spat. "Greg helped me so much, and you're just jealous because I don't need your stupid approval. If you just support me instead of spying on me, maybe we'd have a chance." Her words felt like a slap, but I didn't flinch. I knew the truth now. I saw how manipulative she was, how she was trying to turn everything around on me. I told her she could lie all she wanted, but I wasn't staying in this mess. That night I went to bed feeling hollow. I'd confronted her, but I knew this was just the start. The damage was done, and now I had to decide what I was going to do next. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry all at once. But I also felt a strange sense of relief. I finally knew the truth and I could stop being in the dark. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, was gone. All that was left was this cold, bitter reality. I didn't want to be with someone who lied and cheated, especially not with someone like Greg, who was supposed to be her therapist. The emotional toll was heavy. I kept asking myself if I should stay or leave. The trust was shattered beyond repair. I wondered if I could ever look at her the same way again, or if I'd always see her as the liar she became. I knew I couldn't stay in this marriage the way it was. I had to decide whether to fight for it or cut my losses and walk away. But deep down, I already knew the answer. I wasn't going to let her ruin me, not without a fight. I just wasn't ready to give up yet, even if every part of me was telling me to run and never look back. After that confrontation, everything changed. Lisa wasn't the same bitchy, dismissive woman I used to know. She became defensive, trying to spin her lies even more desperately, but it was clear she knew I had her cornered. Still, she kept up her act, insisting that Greg was just her therapist's assistant, that she was working through her issues, and that I was just insecure and jealous. I could see right through her, though. She was panicked, and her threats of divorce sounded more like desperate bargaining than genuine resolve. I decided I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I told her I wanted a serious talk, no more lies, no more bullshit. I had enough evidence now, and I was ready to lay everything out. I told her I was done playing her game. If she wanted to lie, she could do it to herself, but I wasn't going to be part of her circus anymore. I told her I needed time to think, to process everything. She rolled her eyes and snapped at me, saying I was overreacting, that I was just a jealous husband making a big deal out of nothing. That kind of denial only fueled my anger. I spent the next few days trying to figure out what to do. I thought about talking to a divorce lawyer, about how to protect myself legally, and about whether I should just walk away or fight for some kind of resolution. Every time I looked at her, I saw the sneering face of someone who'd betrayed me so deeply that I didn't recognize her anymore. I kept replaying that video footage. That moment I saw her sneaking into that building, knowing she was cheating on me right there in front of my eyes. Meanwhile, Lisa kept trying to convince me she was innocent, that I was misreading the signs, that Greg was just her mentor, whatever the hell that meant. She started crying, acting all hurt and betrayed, saying I was ruining everything, that I was a possessive idiot. But I wasn't buying it. I knew she was full of shit. I saw what I saw. I knew she was lying about everything because her words didn't match her actions. She was a bitch, plain and simple, and she'd been lying to me for months. One evening, I caught her in another lie. She said she was at her therapy appointment, but I'd been following her again, and I saw her slip out of the back door of her office building and into a nearby hotel. I parked a few blocks away, watching her meet Greg in a different room. She looked comfortable, like she belonged there. I felt sick. All the pieces were falling into place, and I knew I couldn't stay in this marriage anymore. Not with her sneaking around, not with her lying and manipulating. That night I packed a bag. I didn't tell her I was leaving yet, I just couldn't face her again after what I saw. I sat on the couch, staring at the door, knowing I'd have to confront her soon. It was like I was waiting for the last straw, knowing I'd finally have to face the truth and do something about it. The pain was immense, but part of me also felt a strange clarity. I realized I deserved better. She'd betrayed everything we had, and I wasn't about to be her fool anymore. I wanted to walk away, but I also knew I needed to be smart about it. The next day, I finally decided to call her out. I told her to meet me in the living room. When she showed up, I laid everything bare, the footage, the texts, the hotel, everything. Her face twisted into a sneer and she started lying again, claiming it was all a misunderstanding, that Greg was just helping her with her mental health, that I was just jealous and paranoid. She looked so bitchy, so dismissive, like I was the one at fault. But I had enough. I told her I was done, that I wasn't going to be played anymore, that I wanted a divorce. Her reaction was a mixture of anger and shock. She screamed at me, called me all kinds of names, said I was a controlling, jealous loser. But I didn't care. I felt relief, finally, that I was taking control back. I told her I'd file the papers the next day and that I wanted her out of my life. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her, and I was left alone, feeling a strange mix of emptiness and liberation. I knew things wouldn't be easy from here, but for the first time in months, I felt like I was finally free from her bullshit. The days that followed were a whirlwind. I went through all the legal stuff, met with a divorce lawyer, and started preparing to end things with Lisa for good. Honestly, I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with a heavy weight of betrayal. Every time I thought about how she lied, how she sneaked around with Greg, I got this sick feeling in my stomach. But at the same time, I knew I was making the right choice. I deserved someone who respected me, not a woman who thought she could cheat behind my back and still expect me to stick around. I filed the divorce papers a week later. The process was messy and emotional. Lisa didn't go quietly. She tried to. Spin tried to guilt me into staying, crying and calling me insecure, just like I knew she would. She accused me of being paranoid, claimed I was overreacting, told all her friends I was abandoning her because she was trying to better herself. That bitch had the nerve. I saw right through her lies. She was just angry because she got caught. Her false tears and apologies meant nothing now. The hardest part was seeing how she was trying to hold on to her life, her lies, her little affair, even as I was pulling away. She kept texting, begging me to work things out, promising she'd stop seeing Greg, that she'd change. But I wasn't stupid. I knew her well enough now to see she was just trying to manipulate her way back into my good graces so she could keep up her lies. I told her I wasn't interested. I told her I'd seen enough, that I was done with her bullshit. She called me names, screamed at me over the phone, but honestly I didn't care anymore. I just wanted out. The thing I didn't expect was how much my emotional state would shift, how the betrayal, the anger and the heartbreak all started to settle into a strange kind of numbness. I didn't feel happy or even relieved exactly, more like I had just survived something brutal. I kept asking myself how I let it get this far, how I didn't see her true nature hidden behind that bitchy facade for so long. But I also knew I'd learn from this. I'd grow stronger, even if it hurt like hell now. In the end, I moved out of the house. I found a small apartment nearby just to get some space. I avoided her calls, her texts, the endless attempts to guilt-trip me. I kept reminding myself I was better off without her. It wasn't just about the affair with Greg. It was about the lies, the manipulation, the way she dismissed my feelings like they were nothing. I felt a mix of relief and bitterness. The betrayal cut deep, but I knew I'd come out of this wiser, even if it hurt in the moment. What this whole mess taught me is something I never thought I'd say. Trust is fragile. You think you know someone, and then one day, you realize they've been lying to your face. It's a sickening feeling, but it also makes you realize your own strength. I won't let this define me, but I won't forget it either. Lisa's betrayal was a punch to the gut, but it's also a lesson, one I hope I never have to learn again. I don't regret finding out the truth, even if it broke my heart, because I'd rather face the pain than live in a lie. So that's where I'm at now, trying to rebuild, trying to trust again. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I won't be the idiot who turns a blind eye anymore. If anything, I hope my story helps someone else see the warning signs before it's too late. Looking back, I realize how deeply this whole thing has changed me. I used to trust easily, believed in the idea of forever. Now I'm not so sure anymore. But I do know this, I'm stronger for having faced the truth, even if it hurt like hell. That betrayal, that gut-wrenching realization that the woman I loved and trusted was capable of lying and cheating on me with someone I once considered a friend, was a blow I never saw coming. Still, I survived it. One thing I've learned is that you can't control other people's actions, but you can control how you respond. The pain, the anger, the heartbreak, they're part of the process, but eventually they fade. What remains is clarity. I see her for what she really was, a manipulative, bitchy woman who thought she could have her cake and eat it too. I see myself for what I am, someone who deserves honesty, respect, and loyalty. That realization is what's keeping me going now. This whole experience has taught me to pay attention to the small signs, the late nights, dismissive attitudes, secretive behavior. Love can blind you, but betrayal leaves scars that take time to heal. I don't regret uncovering the truth, even if it was brutal. I'd rather go through this hell than live in a lie. Because at the end of the day, I know I'm better off without her. I guess I just want anyone out there reading this to know, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the red flags. If someone is hiding something, it's usually for a reason. And when you find out they've been lying or cheating, don't second-guess yourself. Stand your ground, protect yourself, and when the time comes, walk away. Because the pain of betrayal is terrible, but the freedom that comes from finally knowing the truth is worth every tear. Now I'm focusing on rebuilding my life. I've started going to therapy myself, not because I need to fix something wrong with me, but because I want to learn how to trust again, how to heal. I want to be better, stronger, more aware. And I want to make sure I never let someone do this to me again. That's the real lesson I take from all this. Never settle for someone who lies, cheats, and manipulates. I deserve someone who respects me, who stands by me, who values honesty. So if you're out there going through something similar, hear this: it's not the end of the world. It hurts now, but it gets better. You will come out of this stronger, trust me. And don't be afraid to walk away from the lies, no matter how much it hurts at first. Because the truth will set you free, and in the end, that's all that matters.